Okay, here we go. Basketball is finally back. We had Cedric Maxwell on the show just a few days ago, going down all sorts of roads, and that was a great time. And remember, buy the man's book, and if you're nice and you run into him in the game and you bring it with you, he'll probably even autograph it and write you a personal message, because Max is just that kind of guy. But now we can talk about real hoops, because the preseason's behind us, training camp's behind us, and someone who was at MSG for this latest game is kind enough to join us every time she comes on. And that is, of course, Abby Chin, NBC Sports Boston. I'm Adam Kaufman. We have Evan Valenti. Abby, how are you?
I'm doing well. Still trying to wake up after the double overtime thriller at MSG, but I'm excited to be here.
So there's so much I want to get to over the course of this show without obviously keeping you forever. And I want to talk about your role, because of course you were in studio throughout last year, as we remember. You're back on the road now, which is exciting. We're going to save that for later. We can get to that a little bit later on, but you can certainly give us a firsthand account of what it was like to be in that building for an electric double overtime season opener. Nobody saw 130 plus points from both teams going into that thing, or Jaylen Brown, fresh off a 10-day quarantine, erupting for 46 points. He was out of his mind. I imagine that Brown in particular was your main takeaway from that game.
No question. I mean, first of all, yes, MSG was rocking. I think a year of not having fans in there, it was clear that all of the New Yorkers were so excited to be out of the house, so excited to be together. I mean, all the stars were out, from Dustin Hoffman to Tracy Morgan. The place was bumping, and the game lived up to all the hype, which I think a lot of us were concerned about. The Knicks went in, obviously, with the additions of Kemba Walker and our old friend Evan Fournier.
He's not our friend anymore.
No, he's
not after that.
That's what Rob Williams said post-game. Like, I'm mad at Evan. That was not cool. But so I think there was a lot of excitement around Kemba, the hometown kid, coming back. And then with the Knicks in particular, facing a lot of expectations after they surpassed everything that Knicks fans thought they could do last season. So there was a lot of hype surrounding the Knicks, and then the Celtics entering this new era under Ime Udoka with no one really knowing what to expect. But yes, Jaylen Brown by far was the highlight for the Celtics. He had an awesome Instagram post last night, straight out of quarantine.
Yeah.
Came out, dropped 46 points, and I mean, made it look easy. Looks like he could have gotten more, and was calling for more plays down the stretch, especially in that double overtime, which was insane for him to have been off the court for 10 days. Yep. Said he was mostly meditating, was how he was preparing. So he was just dreaming of buckets, all the buckets he was going to get.
The visualization
and then he got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, I was thinking about it this morning. It was strange last night because it didn't necessarily feel like a loss when we were talking to everyone afterwards. They were upset that it was a loss, but I feel like for all of us fans, not fans, but for all of us in the building, it felt like such a victory to be back, everyone together, and then to get to watch a game like that. It was hard to get down after that, even with the loss.
You could say it. We're fans. I mean, I know we all cover the team.
It's better for all of us if they win. Yeah.
Yeah. You certainly more intimately than Evan and I, but look, for all of us, winning is good for business. So in that sense, at the very baseline, we are fans. But I mean, yeah, especially Evan and I growing up around here, we are legitimate fans and want to see things go well. There were elements of it, obviously, that sort of felt like, people like to, it's a big thing with the Patriots right now, and moral victories and that sort of thing. I don't take any of those out of last night's game. It was exciting. It was a thriller. It was great. Jaylen was great. Rob Williams was great. Jason Tatum
44 minutes for the Time Lord.
Right. I like that he even said, I think to our own Bobby Manning, he was like, isn't this what you guys wanted? You wanted me to play forever, right?
That's what I wanted. That's what he wanted. He's been asking for this.
Yeah, it's good to have basketball back. I tweeted that like 18 times last night because it was like, wow, this is great. Wow, this is awesome. And then by the end of the game, Jaylen hits that pull up from, the logo at MSG. And I was like, man, this is so, and the fact that the full crowd was there last night made it even, it just made it even better.
Left. Everyone was there.
Yeah, right. You can't leave. You couldn't leave MSG last night. No way. If you left last night, that's then you're never going to go to a basketball game ever again. But it was again, there's so much more to talk about, but it was just really nice to just have meaningful basketball back on again. And it feels like it's been so long since we've seen quote unquote normality, and we're still kind of getting there, but it just felt it felt nice to be on a good track. And then, there's so many other things we can talk about from this game. Jaylen obviously being one of them, Tatum being the other one. But yeah, it was nice to have everything back and the energy in the building. I'm sure, Abby, you could feel it from the opening tip or even before the tip that the energy in last night's building was off the charts. So, kudos.
Yeah, it was palpable. And, Knicks fans are not a quiet group. So they certainly let you know from the jump. But yeah, Evan, I had a tweet similar to that last night where, Boston sucks chants broke out. And I was like, this is awesome. We're back.
We're back.
Like, this is it. We're in it. And then Julius Randle dunked on Peyton Pritchard and Dennis Schroeder, and that swept away all my good vibes. But the craziest thing, you mentioned it, like it's weird being back to normal, trying to get from where we were in the press box down to the post-game press conference rooms, the crush of people, because everyone was still there. So it was so many people. I just have not been in a sea of people that big for so long, and it was it made me nauseous. It was,
I was gonna say, was there a little bit
much.
This is weird.
I was like,
where's my mask? Where's my
like,
mask? Don't touch anybody, don't touch anything.
I know, don't touch anything.
Don't
Where's
brush
my
up
hand
against me.
sanitizer? So we're not quite all the way back to normal, but it was really nice to be inside Madison Square Garden last night.
Well, in the spirit of crushing good vibes, I wanted to get some of the positives out of the way, and there are more positives we'll get to. But if anyone was watching the video and saw me just searching through my phone, there's a reason for it. So a good buddy of mine, Seth, who's come on this show a number of times, is kind of a voice of the fan, albeit more pessimistic than optimistic. It's just, kind of him by nature as a sports fan, and maybe even in life. And I imagine he's out there listening, so I want to shout him out for this reason. So I started to get a series of texts from him during that game last night, all throughout. And I'm not going to read everything. Obviously, we'd be here forever. But I do want to highlight a stretch right at the beginning, because I want to get both of your thoughts, Abby, obviously you in particular, given that you're, much closer to this team, getting to talk to guys one-on-one, and obviously being around Ime and all of that. Here's a voice of the fan, throughout last night's game. And I assure you, didn't get any better when the game was over either. But this was not even when the game was final. Said, I realize you're going to tell me I'm overreacting, but I want to let you know I'm officially worried about Ime. First of all, they're bitching at the refs more than ever. They're also never getting back on defense, loads of turnovers. Strategically, it seems like they're just letting them go after offensive rebounds they have no chance of getting. They're letting the Knicks switch Time Lord away from the rim literally every time down the floor. No resistance. It's like red flag city out here. If this was my team or wasn't my team, I'd be gloating that Ime seems out of his league. Also, they're incredibly soft. What are your thoughts on an initial reaction to game one under Ime Udoka after so much off-season, preseason training camp talk of, we're not going to complain. We're going to be stronger. We're going to work together. We're going to play tough. We're going to be physical. We're going to all this stuff. And then obviously he's not alone. Some fans watching that game last night feeling that way.
Wow. I feel like that was a lot for one game in the regular season.
Take a walk, buddy. Like, I don't know. I'm going to DM him after this
Stretch
show.
it out.
Like,
Stretch it out.
I mean, okay. Should we go through it one by one? As far as the complaining to the refs, I didn't notice that last night. I mean, that obviously was something that was not enjoyable to watch last season. And Ime has made it a point to talk about that. He pulled Grant Williams in the final game of the preseason to make a point that we're not going to do that. And so I think that we all know that when you're used to doing something, it's hard to break habits, especially bad habits. And so I do think that that is something that is at least being voiced to them. As far as defensively, I mean, that's the scheme that Ime wants to do, is to switch everything, and getting back in transition didn't necessarily happen until the second half. I feel like they were pretty good in transition defense in the first half. And so I would chalk that up to a little bit of fatigue and kind of, and that's what Ime said post game. I will give him credit. He is straight with us. I mean, that was the rep coming in, that he is direct but warm. And he, does not talk around the truth. He said, we definitely missed defensive assignments and let Obi Toppin get out way too much. He's like, it's something we're going to work on. And the switch everything defense that he wants to play, he has the roster to play. And I am really curious to see if that is something that they can stick with throughout the season. That will be a success, but it's an adjustment. It's something that, I mean, Dennis Schroeder, I talked to him during the preseason and he said, it's hard for me. This is a different mindset. I am used to going one-on-one and trying to guard my yard, stop my guy. But now I'm just switching everything. And so it's a different mentality. And I do think it's going to take some time. And I think Brad Stevens, I don't think Ime just came out of the blue with this defensive strategy and is like, this is something I want to try today. You know, I'm sure through the interview process and all of that, that's something that they discussed. And it's something that intrigues Brad. It's why the roster is the way it is. And they have the versatility 1 through 5 for 2, like from the starters to the reserves. And so I think it's things are going to take time. This is not something that is just Ime is gonna show up and everything is different. Everything has changed. Not to mention they didn't have Al Horford, which I know is something that we talk about with the Celtics and injuries and not everyone being available all the time, but they did not have Al Horford. And so we didn't get to see the full capabilities of that switch happy defense. And so, yeah, I think Seth, while I appreciate you keeping it real, it's early. Calm it down.
Yeah, the Al Horford
Have a drink, relax.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just crack a beer open or something like that. Have a glass of wine and just chill. It's like the Aaron Rodgers relaxed particular, sentiment. We always the Al Horford. Right, exactly. The Al Horford thing is big because Al is either their best communicator on defense or one of their best communicators on defense in terms of calling things out and everything. So not having Al there is a problem for sure. Richardson, who's a switchable defender, not having him is also a problem. Look, their defensive problems were pretty evident in the preseason, and I think it's just lack of cohesion, playing time, communication, and it should get better as the season goes on. You have both Brad as the Pobo and Ime as the actual head coach, and then other staff members on Ime's staff. They're all pretty, we'll say defense first guys. I'm not worried about this team defensively quite yet, just because they're installing a new system. And that will take some time. These guys, again, they're coming from other systems that they're not just quite used to this yet. The Schroeder quote being a very good one. I would push back on that because I think I saw some fight out of this team last night that I didn't see last year, or at least I don't remember. Are they going to
certainly didn't consistently see it?
Yeah, right. So I thought, one of the things I like the energy right off the top. I really enjoyed the fact that this team, especially at the end, continued to fight and grind, even though they were down 11 with 3 minutes left. They were down 9 with a minute 30 or whatever it was at the end of the game there. And they didn't give up. And that's the thing, when you go back to the earlier Brad Stevens teams, whether it was with, Isaiah Thomas or, before IT got there and before Kyrie screwed everything up, this team would fight tooth and nail every single second of every game. And I remember at one point it was a series against the Cavs. I don't remember the series, might have been 2017. They're going to lose this series. There's no question. LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Love, too much for this team. And yet they fought till the clock said 0-0-0-0 and tried so hard to come back in a game that whether they won or not wouldn't matter for the rest of the series. They still would have lost. And that's the stuff that I miss, is the fact that the team, cares a lot. And so last night it's getting tight at the end of the game. They're definitely down amount where you could give up and be like, all right, we'll just move on to the next one, which I'm used to. Now, but this team fought and climbed their way back, and Jaylen hits a 3 from the logo. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, let's play the foul game, see what happens. You have what was probably a botched defensive play by the Knicks on the last play of regulation that led to Smart's 3. But it's a great job by Jason getting it ahead to Dennis, who made a great read, getting to Smart in the corner with the 3. I mean, that's just great stuff. So, there's things that Seth mentioned that are valid. I think defensive stuff, I think that's valid. I think, complaining to the refs, they're going to always do that. Unfortunately, that's good. That's a bad habit they've had for years, and that's not going to end in one game. That's going to take time. But I have a lot more positives than I have negatives from last night, because let's also consider the Knicks are a good team too. Right, the Knicks are supposed to be a top 5, top 4
and play hard.
Yeah, So it's not like the Knicks aren't good. That team plays hard, as Abby said. They play their ass off. That's what Thibodeau does. He gets guys revved up. So as much as you want to talk about last night, there are negatives, but I was encouraged by the effort, encouraged by Rob and Jaylen and a couple other things. So I think there's, they lost. That stinks, but look, there's 81 more games to go here. Let's not overreact. It's okay. All right.
Adam, I do want to get your thoughts, because Evan, I want to push back on something. I feel like last year's team, one of the major frustrations was not that they weren't that they gave up. I feel like they were in almost every game. That was what was infuriating, is that they had the talent level to dominate. And it was those long stretches where you felt like the effort wasn't there because they thought they could just turn it on at the end. They knew they would be there at the end and they could just get it done. Last night, it to me felt like everyone was trying to do the right thing. At points, they were overpassing. And then at points when they were trying to attack mismatches, they were doing it too much. And so they just would get tunnel vision at points. And so I think everyone is coming in with this fresh start and with trying to do the right thing. It's just going to take time for everyone to get on the same page.
So my big thing last year was, and I'm kind of saying the same thing that both of you just said, which is that it's not that they outright didn't try. Like, you wouldn't look at them last year and say, this team didn't give a crap all season. What I would say is that the give a bleep meter was very inconsistent. It rided low way too often. And
Right.
To your point, Abby, it was just way too much of the, we can show up, we can beat this team. This is a bad team. And then it'd be a close game. They'd attempt to step on the gas late and it would be a little too late and they'd lose a close game. So they weren't getting blown out with any sort of regularity or anything like that. It was just, I think it, and we don't really know, at least the three of us, the real story, all the true reasons behind Brad Stevens being elevated and no longer being the head coach. But if reports are to be believed that like he was just kind of burned out and didn't want to do it anymore, as some people said at the time, last season, I think played a huge role in that, because he just wasn't, I don't want to say he lost the locker room. That's not my claim, but I think his voice was not getting through to the degree that it once did anymore, where it's like, you guys need to be at it from the jump. Last year they were not, it was just way too inconsistent with the effort, which was what made that team infuriating. Last night's game, I don't think it was the same thing. You're right. But I think there were points where they got comfortable. They got comfortable, obviously, late in that first quarter when they'd come back from a big deficit to start the game. They take a big lead. They kind of stepped off the gas a little bit. I think rotations or lack thereof in terms of having a rhythm, a consistency throughout training camp and missing bodies, key bodies like, two guys who will be part of that rotation, Horford and Richardson, that played a role as well. Ime, I think at points not really knowing, at least this is what it felt like in watching, not really knowing, okay, what's my next move on the chessboard here? Like, who do I want to go to? Where do I want to go? Tatum is killing me. Why can't the guy hit a damn shot? He's what did he go? 2 for 15 from 3 last night, which I think obviously again factors into the system in part that they're going to play offensively. And we'll get to that obviously a little bit later on as well. But, I think it was just kind of, once he got to a point where he said, okay, we're close, we can play a little back and forth, then they kind of didn't relent. And then it was just, like you said, they ran out of gas, which sort of takes me back to, it's one game. I'm not going to overreact in this sense. I'm not going to overreact, especially given the players that we're missing. But the aspect of sort of with Tibbs being on the other side, the running guys into the ground that has gotten Tibbs, fired from multiple spots at this point in time. And last night was double overtime too, so that's part of it. But 4 guys going 45 plus minutes in in what was an 8-9 man rotation. A couple of guys only playing right around 10. Some guys you might have expected to see not even seeing the floor even for a singular minute. I think Ime is just, there's so much of this feeling out process right now that it's hard to come away with any sort of definitive takeaways other than there's going to be a high energy. There's going to be a high energy from this group, but how they fit, how they gel, I just don't think we know yet.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think about Ime, that's fair. With he's never done this before, so it's like, how does he manage his timeouts? How does he manage rotations? Like, I was screaming last night for just a fresh body from somebody. Like, Jaylen missed a dunk in OT last night that like baffled me. I'm like, no way. That's called dead legs right there. He just doesn't have it right now. And so just a way to, and that's where, the depth thing of having Richardson and having a Horford comes into play. And that would help obviously with this rotation.
In those situations, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
who are you going to trust? You going to throw Aaron Nesmith back in there? I mean,
not
at the end of double OT. What do you?
I mean, I love Nesmith and I do want him to play more, but I just, again, who do you sub out? I mean, they were playing really small at the end of the game. It was Dennis, Smart, Jaylen, Jason, and either Rob or Grant, pending on what they were doing. It was mostly Rob towards the end, which I agreed with and understood. But it was just you could tell everybody was dead on both sides. And how does Ime look at that and say, all right, next time that this happens, how do we fix this? Well, having the full complement of your players is going to be a good start. So, but yeah, it's going to be fun to watch them kind of learn on the job. Watching Brad do it in 2013 when there were no expectations, with Smart and Gerald Wallace and Jeff Green and just a bunch of.
Don't you dare forget Chris Humphreys.
Don't you dare. Bogans, I think, hung out, but I don't think he played
until they paid him to go away.
Yeah. You had Avery Bradley, and so it's different. Like Brad working his way through it. Like, who cares? Like, nobody's around. Now you have Tatum and Brown, who are budding superstars, and a team that's supposed to have a good level of success this year. I'll say people have them penciled between 6 and 3 in terms of where they'll end up. So maybe playing game in 3, like there's a wide range of outcomes here, but how does Ime learn on the job while this team tries to contend and succeed is going to be a very interesting storyline from here on out. And, last night you get a lot of lessons, how to manage a team during a double overtime game when you're down 2 of your top 7 guys. Yeah. Tough first lesson for your first day on the job.
And I asked both guys, Jaylen and Jason, how Ime was in the huddle. And Jaylen said he was great, had great ATOs, was confident, was excited to be there clearly, which the guys were feeding off of. And so I think, and Evan, thank you for that reminder, Brad Stevens' first year and what a tremendous learning curve it was. I mean, he was a completely different story coming from college, and he has talked about it repeatedly, just the fact that there are so many more possessions and the game is so much longer and they just keep coming. And it was something that he thought he was prepared for, but nothing can really prepare you for that. And so Ime's not dealing with any of that. He's been in the NBA for the last 20 years and has been learning from some of the best in the game. And so I do think he has a step up there, but you're right. This team is dealing with higher expectations, which I think then in turn is what makes everybody go so negative, because you just want so much more for this team. And it's going to take time. That's just the reality of life where we are. And in respect to Jason Tatum, though, I came away last night post game. He was not down. I mean, he admitted he settled for threes late, probably because he was tired and fatigued, because they played 45 minutes in game 1 coming out of a 3-game preseason. And basketball shape is different. And they were playing the Knicks at MSG and emotions were running high. And so, but the confidence that Jason Tatum exuded post game gives me confidence. And like he said, he's good for about one of these a season. He doesn't think it's going to happen again. And as we all know, Jason Tatum and the bounce back is real the next game. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings on Friday.
Yeah, and I don't think, and hopefully nobody is anyway, but I think we've all been around it long enough. Like, no one should be even remotely worried about Jason Tatum. Is this who Jason Tatum's going to be? 30 shots, hitting 7, 20 points, and missing 13 threes. It's not. Don't worry about that. Like Abby said, the bounce back's real. He's going to be just fine. He's going to be an all-star, probably going to be an all-NBA guy, especially after the slight last year, at least whether real or perceived, and he's going to be fine. Those two guys, they're going to be fine. They're going to be off nights for Jaylen as well. These are the pillars, as we keep using that term, going back to Ime describing these guys. Although I do want to mention this with the 3-pointers, and this isn't even singular Tatum. This is just as the senior member of this group, the 3 of us, being that I am the oldest of the 3 of us. If I can go like old man shaking fist at cloud for a second. I know it was a double overtime game. 57 3-point tries by the Celtics. 57. And yes,
I saw that. Yeah.
They hit 21, so 37% or whatever. And again, double overtime. So you got the extra 10 minutes to play with. 57 3-point is this an entertaining brand of basketball for anybody? And that's not me going after Ime or the Celtics. Like, that's just today's NBA. And like, this team is going to average 43-point tries a game over the course of the year. It's going to. I mean, we saw hints of it in the preseason. It's just, I wondered coming in, we constantly have the conversations about how will Ime and Brad differ in terms of their offensive systems, their defensive systems? Is Ime going to, be a guy that reins in the three a little bit, or maybe in particular reins in Marcus Smart from three a little bit, or all these different things we talked about over the course of the entire summer? If one game is any indication, launch, fire away. That's, go from the logo, take the 4-pointers, Peyton Pritchard. It's just, again, in the spirit of this being the 75th anniversary in the NBA and having all these former Celtics and all the all-time greats, their names trickling out each day as part of that anniversary team. 57 3-point tries in a game is just, I know it's where we're at. And so it's a dying hill to be on, me, Cedric Maxwell, and whoever else, but it's not fun. Like, it's not fun. Even if they're hitting them, like, early in that overtime last night, it's just not entertaining watching teams basically live between the 3-point lines and just firing them off. Your turn, my turn, your turn. I don't know. I don't like it.
You didn't find the beginning of overtime entertaining? Because I found it entertaining as hell. I thought it was
or
awesome.
The Celtics coming back in the first quarter when they hit 7 straight shots, 5 of them threes. I mean, awesome. I think it's fun. I think they watch when they're hitting. It's not fun to watch.
Yeah, but I think you become. There's a downside. You become too reliant. You become too needy for it. You try to shoot your way back into games when chipping away might actually be more efficient. It's a different mentality. I recognize. And again, like, anyone out there listening is saying, like, shut up, Kaufman. Like, we've heard this spiel before and you're wrong and it's stupid, and get with the times and all of it. I get it. I know I am in the minority in this respect. I don't know. It's not as much fun to me as guys like getting in and like banging inside. Like, you're going to tell me that even if you're fine with Tatum taking that last shot in regulation last night, and I know a lot of people weren't, like, Brown's got the hot hand, get it to Jaylen. Even if you're fine with he couldn't have had a better attempt than that. He couldn't have found something better than a fadeaway jumper. Get inside, draw the foul. I don't know. We don't see it enough in today's NBA in general. It's not, again, specific to the Celtics.
It did feel like in the preseason that is a point of emphasis for Jayson to get to the free throw line. But I think it goes back to what we've been talking about. These are old habits and habits that they have gotten into. This is Jayson's 5th season, Jaylen's 6th, Marcus 7th or 8th. And so, I mean, these are things that, Adam, you can't tell me. Ime's thing is, go from a good shot to a great shot. And they are in the film room. There's no question they're showing them, yes, you took that 3. That's a good shot. We are confident in you as a shooter, but there was also this option. And it's just going to take some time to make those adjustments and to get into those different habits.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what I would say.
I know it's my
island.
I don't
think we'll see 57 threes every night.
Yeah, I mean, Jayson's not going to take 15 threes unless. I mean, I would be surprised if he took that again this year. I would.
But that won't be a regular thing. He'll probably average like 9, though.
And I'm cool with that. He should average 9 threes a game if he's shooting 40%. That's fine. Like, I have no problem with that. Again, the point being, though, it would be nice to see him get to the rim a little bit more. And that's, the big, I guess call it the big talking point everybody's had all season has been, or all offseason has been, he's going to get to the line more, going to get the line more. So first game, didn't do it. Let's just, wait for the next game. I will say this, though, because we've kind of been all over the map. Jaylen has got some moves in the mid-range that really make me, extremely, I guess, optimistic about maybe him making another leap here. Because he's made it in transition in terms of a transition player. He's made it as a 3-point shooter, being one of the worst volume 3-point shooters in NCAA history, to now he shoots 40%. He's pulling up, he's spotting up from 3, off the dribble, all that stuff. But the fact that he can get by guys and get into the lane and do some work, there's some obvious stuff that T-Mac taught him a while ago that's starting to really click, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it. He had one move, and somebody posted it, I think, on Twitter earlier today, where he's going to his bag of tricks a little bit in the mid-range, and he missed the shot. But the fact that he had all of that, got a good look, and just missed it, just makes me excited about his future. And then the fact that he had 6 assists last night. Going from a guy that had no court vision or court awareness or any of that IQ stuff to a guy that looks like a legitimate facilitator is huge. So again, we've been all over the board here a lot of this show, because I think all 3 of us are very excited about what has happened. But to focus on some positives, Jaylen Brown was absolutely brilliant. And if that's the guy they have in 2021, 2022, that's a guy that not a lot of people in the Eastern Conference can cover. And that's going to be a really huge weapon for them. And to see him embrace that facilitator role so early is ginormous. So I'm very, very, very high on Jaylen after last night.
I couldn't agree more. Playmaker Jaylen, I think, is what stood out to me last night. I will push back, Evan, and not let it slip that you say that Jaylen came in with no basketball IQ, because that is not the way it was. I think that might not have been a part of his game or something that he emphasized, but the basketball IQ has always been
he's cerebral out there. There's no question.
He sees the game.
Not as a facilitator and ball handler. He didn't. He wasn't that when he was first in.
And being efficient with it.
Yeah.
And there were points last season. I mean, I remember at the beginning of the season where he was shooting 80% from mid range. And so the thing that I think is so fun about Jaylen is that he continues to add things to his game, and when he does it at an elite level. It's not just that he makes these little jumps and you see these flashes. I feel like he focuses on something and then he brings it from the off season, and it's there. It's part of his game, and it's like it was always part of his game. And I'm really excited to see the leap that he's going to make this season. If we take from game number 1 what he's capable of doing as the playmaker. And he told us post game he wants the ball in his hands even more, and that's something that he really focused on in the offseason. I talked to his assistant coach with the Celtics, Tony Dobbins, and Jaylen is a guy who while it is communication with coaches and the coaching staff and what he wants to work on, he is someone who comes in and is like, this is what I'm seeing on the court. This is how defenses are attacking me. I know that this is where I'm weak. I want to work on that and turn it into a strength. And the focus this offseason for him was as a playmaker, and to be able to handle the ball and do it efficiently, not turn the ball over, take on that responsibility of being more of a playmaker. And so I am really excited to see him in that role this season.
Someone we brought up before and haven't really talked about since, and that's Kemba Walker, of course, who I know, Abby, you had the chance to talk to him out there at the Knicks practice facility on the eve of the game, and his excitement going up against, his former team so quickly, as we know, after a couple of years in Boston where it didn't work out. And you asked him why it didn't work out, and all sorts of different stuff that I'll let you expand upon, obviously. But I thought what was really interesting, if I had sort of one takeaway from the pregame footage yesterday, where he's mic'd up and, dabbing everybody, the personalized handshakes with all his former teammates and all the I love yous and everything, and how much guys, Brown, Tatum, Rob Williams, the list goes on. All these guys just almost lamenting the loss of Kemba Walker. They're so affectionate about the guy, taking nothing away from Kemba, because everything they said about Kemba is absolutely true. And we all feel this way. Like, it's a bummer it didn't work out for Kemba Walker in Boston, because please, find me a better guy. He is just unbelievable. But I think part of it too, I couldn't help but think, man, we didn't have Isaiah Thomas getting serenaded this way when he left. We didn't, Paul Pierce wasn't serenaded this way when he left. And Kemba Walker was, an inconsistent injury plagued player for 2 years in Boston. I feel like part of it wasn't just Kemba being Kemba and the unbelievable person he was. It was just the breath of fresh air that he provided in immediately replacing Kyrie Irving and helping to change, just the overall atmosphere there in that locker room.
I think what stood out to me, and you saw it watching him every night, but Jaylen reiterated it when he spoke last night, is that the joy that Kemba brings to the game is just the levity of it. And I agree with you. It's probably was so refreshing coming off of Kyrie Irving, who didn't want to, talk to anybody for long stretches of time. But Jaylen said last night, Kemba is a guy who would come up to him and tell him, remind him to get out of his own head, not take things so seriously, to be happy with the joy of this game. And so I think that that's something that they will miss. Talking to Tom Thibodeau, he mentioned, the same thing, that Kemba is just a joy to be around. But what he said that stuck out to me pregame is that Kemba will give you everything he has. And I believe that's what he did here in Boston. It's just what he has because of his injury, because of how much time he's been on the court, because of his stature is not enough for what the Celtics need and doesn't fill the void that was left. And so I think that's why it didn't work out. That's what Kemba told me. He said, I feel like obviously injuries in my body, that was the biggest issue. And while no one wanted to see, you're right, the man, Kemba Walker, go, it was something that they weren't willing to and really couldn't invest that kind of money in that type of player who wasn't going to be there every game and couldn't play the second night of back-to-backs.
Yeah, Kemba's one of the greatest teammates ever. I mean, talk to anybody that's ever been a teammate with Kemba Walker. This goes back to college. He's again just a wonderful guy to be around. Great locker room guy, great chemistry guy. It is just unfortunate it didn't work out because I think Kemba has a lot of fans everywhere. I was a little surprised that he was shocked by a trade from Boston because I think we all kind of saw that coming. So that was the one thing that
especially
I
after
found
you
very
reportedly
suspicious.
asked for one.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a little weird, but again, it was just nice seeing again the smile. Kemba is one of the best smiles in all of basketball. There's no question about it. You can't help but like feel the energy he has for the game when he's on the floor. And it's great that he still has good relationships with everybody. He has Bernie Bridges. I mean, everybody loves him. So, it's unfortunate it didn't work out. It really is. But and it's not like he set the world on fire last night. He was 3 of 4 from 3-point range, which kind of hurt a little bit. Evan Fournier being slightly more effective in that game hurt way more than Kemba. But it is unfortunate it didn't work out. And I think, I hope that I want the best for Kemba. It's like one of those things where even though he's not around, you're still like, man, I just love that guy. I hope that he gets healthy and can get back to something of what he was when he was in Charlotte, because he was a breathtaking player. Again, as someone who's shorter, to watch someone like Kemba go out there and play with giants, it's really fun to watch. It was like watching Isaiah Thomas all the time. The guy that's 5'6" and challenging Rudy Gobert at the rim and winning. Like that stuff's awesome. So, what's good for Kemba is in the best place for Kemba. Mm-hmm. Back in New York, where he's from, he'll feed off that energy that the Garden will give him. And I am thrilled for him. So, I mean,
just like Kyrie Irving.
Well, yeah.
Right back where he should be.
Oh, I don't want to get into that.
It's going to thrive. It's going to be great.
Leave that alone. But yeah, I am certain guys you just root for in the NBA. Like I do root for Kemba Walker. I hope he gets back to where he was.
Evan Fournier, you don't root for quite as hard.
No, even though we share the name, man, that was tough to watch last night. To watch him hit like threes on dribble handoffs, and just like, yeah, that's exactly what Boston needed him to do.
It was Team France Olympic Fournier again.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate the COVID thing because I thought it was gonna get there, and if he's like that,
he hit 9 straight threes before he went down with COVID. It was terrible timing.
I know, and it's like, man, it just didn't work out, and it's just the Celtics' luck lately is just really it's just remarkable. I mean, between the Hayward, the Kyrie, the Horford leaving, the Kemba stuff, now Fournier on top of it, it's like, when will this end? Will they ever get a good break in their direction? Because it felt like there was a lot of positive momentum building up, and now it's just the other way. It's tiring. It's tiring to watch everybody else succeed off the Celtics. It's just annoying.
No, everybody. But I will say, Evan, coming into media day, everyone, it's a breath of fresh air, a fresh start for everyone. Al Horford literally like bounced into the press conference room and was just like, I am genuinely so happy to be back. What do you guys want to talk about? He was, I mean, the happiest I've ever seen anyone on media day was Al Horford. And so it was awesome. And then Jaylen Brown gets COVID, Al Horford gets COVID, and like Peyton Pritchard breaks his nose. And I was just like, oh God, how did we get back here so fast? It's happening again.
It's last year all over again. She hasn't even started yet. What the hell's going on?
So I'm just fingers crossed, got it out of the way early. Maybe the timing is good. And maybe we'll it's up from here.
I really am eager to see, not to spend too much time on him, but I am eager to see Al Horford back, from not only because obviously of what he brings this team from defensively, running the offense through him, all sorts of. Look, we know who Al Horford is as a basketball player. We saw it here for years, and I think most people. I know there was kind of a running gag about it at the time. Average Al versus all around Al versus all star Al versus people. No matter which side of that coin you're on, and you see it through whatever eyes you want to see it through. We all know what Al Horford brings to the table and what kind of basketball player he is. But with all of maybe it's sort of that preseason hype train that every player and every team is guilty of. And then, but I mean, people talk it like best shape of my life and haven't, benefited so much from all that time off last year when the Thunder just sent me home and said, go stay in shape but not having to deal with the wear and tear of the daily grind and all of that stuff. And now for him to get obviously this rejuvenated, this fresh start in Boston and him being, it's a best of both worlds, right? Like he got the huge payday the Celtics wouldn't give him and he still winds up back with the Celtics. So this is great for him. Obviously, I'm really eager to see what he looks like when he is back out on the floor because, we need to remember, I think anyway, at least that guy's a little bit older than he was the last time we saw him. But if he is as good as the hype is, then he is going to be a huge difference maker and obviously probably would have been last night. I mean,
he looked phenomenal in the preseason minutes that he got. He said he was feeling great and he looked it. He's outrunning guys down the court. And I obviously in 82, now 81 game season will take a toll on that and take away from everything that he's built up. But yes, I am very excited to see Al. And then if, Jaylen Brown right out of quarantine says anything, maybe Al can, because he was in such good shape, starts off at a higher base and then COVID won't necessarily knock that down as much is what I'm
just do some meditating. I might start it up after watching Jaylen doing that.
Seriously,
I might just start meditating for hours a day because that was really.
I'm not good at sitting still, which I know is a big purpose of that, but I do not meditate. But yes, after last night, I'm interested.
Abby, there's we like to think around here we run a decent podcast, but every once in a while we screw up. And last week we screwed up because we had Cedric Maxwell on. We had a great time. We had I think it was a great show. I encourage people, if you missed it, it's still all very timely. Go back, check it out. Hear all sorts of stories from his new book, which you can buy on Amazon as well. And but we do this big season preview show, and we didn't actually hit on our predictions for a number of wins, how far this team's going to go, where they're going to finish in the East. We got so distracted talking about whatever the hell else that, we skipped the most baseline expectations for a season preview show. So I think one game into the year, it's still fair. We can go down that road. What were your expectations or, impacted by one game, I guess, if you want, are your expectations for this team in terms of number of wins and where they finish in the East?
I don't have a specific number of wins in mind. I think that the East overall has gotten a lot tougher. So I am curious to see where records end up. I mean, I know a lot of the focus going into game one for the Knicks, especially, they had 41 wins, surpassed expectations in a 72 game season, but not expected to win 41 again this year just because of the competition in the East. And so I do expect the Celtics to improve from last season. And I'm hopeful for a top 4 or 5 finish in the East. I mean, I think that I do think a top 4 is possible and to get home court advantage in the first round. But throughout the preseason, I was very intrigued and excited about the added depth and what is possible. And we saw that shine in the preseason. And I think some of that was taken away with Al Horford and Josh Richardson being out for game one. And so I do think that can carry over. I think that the talent level has risen, and I am really, and we haven't touched on the young guys much at all. I'm so excited for Romeo Langford and the confidence that he is playing with right now. And I've talked to him multiple times since training camp started, and he just feels like a different guy than we've seen from the past couple of years. Aaron Nesmith, while not necessarily what we saw in the preseason carried over into game one, but he also, I feel like, has made some leaps and will continue to grow and has that work mindset. And so that is there. And Peyton Pritchard, obviously making some adjustments with the mask. I think that is going to be a work in progress for him, but the depth and the improvement that we have seen from the Celtics young guys who are still here is also very exciting to me.
if I remember right, our friends at betonline.ag had the over-under for the Celtics coming into the year at 46.5 wins. I think that was the number, or at least that was the general ballpark of the number. So if you don't have a specific number in mind, you want to take the over or the under on that?
I'm going under.
Under. Okay. Well, top 4 in the East is going to be tough to get with.
I know. That's true. Very true.
Yeah.
What about you, Evan? Where are we at? What's your number?
We said 46.5. Oh man, life's too short to take the under, so I'll take the over. But I do think this team, it's tough because, what does Philly what happens with Philly is a terrific question. Are the Hawks, now that the Hawks have expectations, what does that look like? The Knicks, again, with the expectations, what does that look like? I mean, there's the obvious. I mean, Milwaukee is just, the other night was unbelievable. I mean, Giannis is ridiculous. I mean, he's so, and now if he's going to start hitting pull-up jump shots, I think you're all screwed anyway. The Nets are obviously one key injury away from being a real, having depth be a real issue, but right now they look fine, with KD and Harden. Those guys are two of the top, 75 players of all time, actually. So those two guys on the same team are really scary. Then after that, it's a little questionable, right? You have Miami, you have Atlanta, you have the Knicks, you have Boston, and you have a team like Philly, which, again, there's talent there, but what does the Ben Simmons thing yield? Does that trade actually happen? Whatever. So I think they're probably somewhere between 6 and 3. And the problem is, if you want to line it up, who do you line up with? Do you want to get the 4 and hope, because you want to have home court for the first round, no question, but you're going to have to play somebody really good between Brooklyn and Milwaukee. So do you want to be the 4 so you get Milwaukee, or do you want to be the 3 so you play Brooklyn? And I don't know if I have an answer to that question right now. I think I'd rather play Brooklyn, but do you really want to play?
Keep in mind,
Brooklyn?
Kyrie's going to be vaccinated and playing by then.
So look, I don't know. I'm not going to touch that. But anyway, I think that's
my belief. I think money talks.
I don't know, Kyrie. Kyrie's a different dude. I'm not going to comment on that because I don't have to worry about Kyrie in the Celtics uniform anymore. I don't have to worry about that anymore. not my issue.
Writing him off.
I'm done. No, I'm done. I talk. The only things I talk about Kyrie are the positive things he contributes off the floor, which I think are things that we need to actually talk about. So
there you go.
And the thing with the top of the East is there's the top 2 tier. Then after that, it's just, we don't know yet. And I think there are a lot of teams that can play the, we think we're here card, or we think we're here card. I think Boston, gun to my head right now, feels like a 5 seed, which seems bad because you're going to play the Bucks if you win that series and not have home court. But that's what it feels like right now. But that could easily change as we see guys get healthy. But again, I was encouraged by last night. I think the Knicks and Boston are, in terms of competitiveness, I think they both compete really hard. I think Boston's more talented than them, but that doesn't always matter at the end of the day. So I think, gun to my head, over, but a 5 seed right now is my prediction.
So,
don't gamble, though. Don't bet on me. Just don't do that.
Fade Evan. The Celtics are screwed.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know where the hell they're going to seed, because I think, as you're both saying, I think the East is just so jam-packed. I think it's so jam-packed that, there's not going to be a big difference between, let's say, 3 through 6 or something like that. That being said, I'm going to put them at 48 wins. 48 is a number that I like for the Celtics this year. Feels about right to the people that have them out there at 50 plus, or had them out there at 50 plus coming into the year. That just seems like a little bit of a reach for me, especially in, year 1 of Ime and trying to figure all this out. But I absolutely believe they're a better team than last year. I think they're deeper than last year. I think they're more well-rounded than last year. And hopefully, especially just with a new voice and a new coach, no matter who it is, I feel like they had better be more focused than they were last year. So 48 is where I'm going to put them. But before we go,
wait, I just want to say my under is based a lot also in that I feel like expectations are what doomed this team the last 2 years. And so I'm gonna slow play. And then, when they exceed those expectations.
There it is. I like that. That's the right way to do it.
Yeah,
that's the right way to do it.
Play both angles. Be like, I was right, or this team surpassed my expectations. So you can't lose.
I got them at 42 wins. Prove me wrong. Do it. Hopefully they're good. Look, it's good for all of us, obviously, if they're good, and it's good for everybody out there listening, because I assume if you're not a Celtics fan, you're not listening. So that's the objective. But Before we do go, because I said way back at the beginning of the show, however long ago, that we were going to touch on this, and I want to make sure we do. Abby, again, being out there at MSG last night, being in the building, covering the Celtics, in person, as obviously she was during the preseason as well. But after being, in studio all of last year, filling the shoes and admirably and doing a great job at that of Kyle Draper, after obviously he went to Sacramento, he had been in studio for so long, now back out on the road. I'm guessing, this is just me assuming, but please tell me if I'm wrong. I'm guessing that, if like the bosses over at NBC Sports Boston said, maybe they said, Abby, you want to be back in studio or you want to be back on the road, which is your preference? Just knowing, your professional history, I feel like you were getting back to your roots, and let's get back on the road and let's be around all these guys in person. Let's be in the atmosphere. Let's do the thing. Was that the, the top objective for you sort of post the height of COVID?
I will just say I am thrilled with the way things turned out. I was surprised by how nice it felt to be back inside the arena, to not be like last season being in studio the whole time. That was the first time I have missed a Celtics game in 8 years, and it felt weird. It was very strange to not be there, and it was really hard for me to not get in the car and drive to the arena, to instead drive to our studios in Needham. So I was thrilled to be back, and thrilled to be back with the people who you used to see every day and didn't get to say goodbye to, because it was such an abrupt ending when the whole pandemic went down. And then after everything that I went through in the summer, with being laid off and all of that, it was just like, I am not taking anything for granted this season. So being back on the road, I told this story, and my husband is sick of it right now, but the first road trip I got to go on was to Orlando. And, so we get to stay at, I usually stay where the team is, and walked into this beautiful hotel. And I flew in later because I don't know, this is inside, but I tend to fly commercial to the places so that I can leave. Usually the team leaves at like 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and that just doesn't really jive with my family life. So I try to take the last flight out and get in. So I got to Orlando, got to the hotel about midnight. I got off the elevator and I was like, gosh, it is so bright in this hallway. And that used to drive me crazy, right? Late at night, you're like, I'm trying to wind down, I'm gonna go to bed. And then I said to myself, what am I talking about? This is amazing. I am back on the road. I am at this beautiful hotel. There was a balcony. I was just like, I was smiling from ear to ear. I was so giddy just to be, back out there. And so my husband was like, you can cool it with the pool pics, really. We get it.
I'm here with the kids.
Yeah, we get it. You're back on the road. It's happy for you. But so I just after everything, the pandemic and all of it, I am just not taking anything for granted, and so excited to be back on the road, be back inside arenas, be back to talking to players. I mean, and actually, or talking to people, having actual conversations with people, not just on Zoom where you get in one question and there's, and then it's gone. And having actual human interactions I'm feeding off of that. And so I'm so excited and thrilled to be back, and on the sidelines it does feel like home for me. So I am still kind of learning the new staff, learning Ime and how he operates. And I feel like all of us, we knew Brad so well. We knew Brad, the coach, so well that we could anticipate what he was going to say, anticipate how he was going to handle situations, particularly with the media and stuff like that. And so this is kind of a new frontier. And so I'm excited about that. And I'm hopeful. I feel like we've been talking about it so much. Things got so negative last year, dealing with expectations, and Twitter was just a cesspool of places.
Well, that's the case no matter what. That's not unique to last year.
And so,
look at my mentions
especially
today.
because at the games too, I'm like running around doing stuff. I can go here, I can go here. When I was in studio, you're like on Twitter, you're like, oh gosh, oh no, oh, and like it's just there was no escape from it, I felt like. And so you can't help but go down those negative rabbit holes. You know, you got to try and pull Seth out of them. And so it is nice to be there and back to where I feel most comfortable.
Well, it's good to have you back there. Obviously, we've enjoyed watching. We'll continue to enjoy watching over the course of the year and hopefully into the postseason and even beyond that, obviously. But Evan, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Well, I know we're getting ready to wrap up here. Can we just get a quick shout out for KG, top 75 player? That was I'm pretty jacked up about that. You know, it's interesting to see how many.
As he should
Were you
be.
surprised by that?
No, it's just nice to see. Like, I wasn't sure how many new guys were going to make it into the fold. I mean, I think KG's a top. I don't know. I'll put 30 just to make people not yell at me so much. Player of all time. And it's just good to see the recognition. I'm expecting Pierce to be on that list too, but we'll see.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm really curious to see, because the final 25 come out later today as we talk right now. I'm eager to see how many guys, not that they all made their bones in Boston, but how many guys of the 75 at least played for a period in Boston. I don't even. What do you think the number is going to be? I don't know how many there are so far. I haven't looked, but
there's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably going to have. Is a third of the list too big a guess? Would it maybe 15, 20?
I think you're gonna. I don't know how many there are right now, which makes for very bad podcasting. So this is.
Well, I don't know either. We like to wait until those things are done. Get your 75 out there, and then we'll react. Yeah. We need to go 25 by 25 here.
Yeah, but they have quite a few. I mean, it's like, I was curious how many guys from the earlier parts of the NBA they would include, and they've included several of them, which is great for the history of the NBA. Like, I'm not shocked that KG make it, but I'm just happy that he did, because again, my favorite Celtic ever, even with Pierce. So. And
this year we get KG raised to the rafters at TD Garden.
Right. Going to be an amazing day.
Will be fun.
Again, NBC Sports Boston's Abby Chin back on the road, having the time of her life, posting pool pics and living it up in the hotels. I don't know if you're like Max, getting the $70, like room service steaks and fries and all that stuff, but live your best life on the road. This is your chance to do it.
I'm trying. I will.
She's Abby. For Evan, I am Adam. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll have a couple more games under our collective belts when we talk next. Obviously, C's play again, home opener tomorrow night. Hopefully it's a win, even up that record, and start the party moving in the right direction. Once again, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff on iTunes. Thanks for being with us. We'll catch you again next week.